Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Empire in shock, alien craft or black project, impossible speed defies all laws. The Empire's border outpost sat like a forgotten century on the edge of space. The distant stars seemed far away, a calm, infinite void stretching beyond the reach of any known ship. On the command deck, Commander Elara stood, her eyes scanning the glowing data screens in front of her. The quiet hum of the station was the only sound, punctuated by the occasional click or beep of her officers as they went about their duties. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. "Commander, we've got an anomaly," said Lieutenant Graham, his voice tight with tension. Elara returned her eyes, narrowing. "What kind of anomaly?" "It's a ship," Graham replied, tapping furiously at the console. "But it's not on any record, no transponder, no signal, just nothing, except for its speed." Her heart skipped a beat. A ship without identification was bad enough, but speed like that? Nothing in the Empire's arsenal could match it. Elara's brow furrowed as she walked to the console, staring at the image on the screen. A single point of light was moving faster than anything she'd ever seen before. It was a faint blur but unmistakable. Something was out there, something unknown. "Do we have a course?" Elara asked, her voice low and steady. "It's heading directly into restricted space, toward the Empire's core systems," Graham replied, his fingers trembling as he tried to lock onto the unknown object's trajectory. "If we don't intercept, it'll breach our defenses." The tension on the bridge thickened. Elara's instincts screamed that this wasn't a simple mistake or malfunction. Something far more dangerous was happening. She stood tall, projecting authority, but even she could feel the unease in her gut. "Report it to High Command," she ordered. "This is no glitch. I want the fleet on alert immediately. Get me a direct line to the Emperor." Graham hesitated for just a moment, his eyes flicking to the screen again. "Understood, Commander." As the communication link buzzed, Elara watched the unknown ship's movement. There was something eerie about its speed. It wasn't just fast, it was unnatural, the way it sliced through space, like it was bending reality itself. No known technology could pull that off. Not even the Empire's finest warships had that kind of power. The communications channel flickered to life, and Elara's commanding officer, General Rivas, appeared on screen. His face was stern, his brows knitted in concern. "What's the situation, Commander?" he demanded. "A ship has entered restricted space, General. No identification, no signals. We've tried to scan it, but the readings are impossible," Elara explained quickly. "I'm ordering a full lockdown on all stations within a 50 light-year radius." General Rivas didn't seem as concerned as he should have been. "I'll have it checked out. You're likely dealing with an old scout ship or a malfunctioning vessel. Don't escalate this. It's probably a mistake." "A mistake?" Elara almost scoffed. She had dealt with thousands of situations like this. An unregistered ship breaching security was not just a mistake, it was a threat. "I recommend we treat it like one," Elara said firmly. "We can't afford to wait. It's moving faster than any ship we have." There was a long pause on the other end of the transmission. Finally, General Rivas sighed. "Fine, send a fleet, but keep a low profile. We don't want to cause panic over a glitch." Elara's stomach churned, but she didn't argue. "Understood, General." The transmission ended, and the room fell back into uneasy silence. Her officers continued to monitor the screens, but everyone could feel it, there was something wrong here. Elara's fingers tapped nervously on the console as the seconds ticked by, the mysterious ship drawing closer and closer to their outpost. She wasn't going to wait for the fleet to arrive. If this was what she thought it was, they'd need more than just a few ships to handle it. Then, the silence was broken again, but this time it wasn't by a voice, it was a sound, a low vibrating hum coming from the direction of the ship. At first, it was barely audible, like a far-off buzz, but as the object grew nearer, the hum became louder, almost alive. Her eyes darted to the screen, and that's when she saw it. The ship was no longer just a blur. It was close, too close. The image of the object became clearer, its shape growing more distinct, though still not identifiable. But it wasn't the ship's appearance that caused the chill to run down Alara's spine, it was the way it moved, the way it bent space. The ship was no longer just fast, it was impossibly fast. In one sharp motion, the object sped forward, now within striking distance of the outpost. Alara watched in disbelief as it closed the gap in a fraction of a second, stopping just beyond their defensive perimeter. A pulse of energy surged from the ship, lighting up the darkness of space around it. She could feel it in the pit of her stomach, something had changed. The Empire had just been put on notice, and this time it wasn't a glitch. "Commander," Graham called urgently. "The systems are shutting down. We've lost control of the shields. It's as if the ship is." He couldn't finish his sentence. The screens in front of them went black, and the hum intensified, echoing through the station like a heartbeat. Alara swallowed hard. The enemy ship was here, and it wasn't going anywhere. "Brace yourselves," she said quietly, her voice steady but her mind racing. "Something tells me this is only the beginning." The eerie hum from the unknown ship still echoed in the command center. The lights above flickered, and the walls seemed to vibrate ever so slightly, as if the very foundation of the station was reacting to the presence of the mysterious vessel. Commander Alara stood at the center of the bridge, her mind racing. The unknown ship hadn't just appeared, it had come for a reason. "Status report," Alara commanded, her voice calm, though the tightness in her chest betrayed her growing concern. Lieutenant Graham turned his chair quickly, sweat beading on his forehead. "Commander, we've lost control of the station's shields. The unknown vessel has. I don't even know how to explain it. It's almost as if it's overriding our systems." Alara's eyes narrowed. This wasn't just some ordinary enemy vessel. Whoever was behind this ship had technology that defied all understanding. "Are our systems offline?" she asked, though she already feared the answer. "Not completely, Commander," Graham replied, his hands flying across the controls. "We still have basic functions, but our defensive systems are all disabled. I sent a distress signal to High Command, but I'm not sure when they'll respond. This breach is too deep." Alara glanced at the screen. The unknown ship was still positioned just outside the outpost perimeter, but it wasn't just sitting idle anymore. Its presence felt deliberate, as if it was waiting for something, waiting for them to make a move. "Are we being scanned?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, Commander. Full-spectrum scans. It's like it's reading us, every inch of the station." "I can't tell what kind of tech it's using," Graham replied. "We're exposed, Commander. If it wants to strike, it could wipe us out before we even know what hit us." Alara's mind raced through possibilities, but there was no time for elaborate plans. The Empire couldn't afford to let the enemy grow stronger. She had to act quickly. They needed reinforcements, and fast. "Lieutenant, send a request for backup, full fleet now. We're going to need everything we have to handle this," she ordered. Graham hesitated for only a moment. "Yes, Commander. I'll send the request immediately." She turned to her other officers. "Prepare to launch all defensive drones. We can't afford to wait any longer." The crew sprang into action, their movements swift and practiced, but Alara could see the fear in their eyes. This wasn't like any other encounter they had faced. The unknown ship, with its impossible speed and disruptive capabilities, had thrown them off balance. As she watched the crew scramble, Alara's thoughts kept drifting back to the mysterious vessel. The power it exhibited wasn't just extraordinary, it was terrifying. How could a ship exist with technology so far beyond the Empire's zone? "Commander," Graham's voice broke through her thoughts. "I'm detecting something strange." Elara walked over, her boots clicking on the metal floor. What is it? There's a pulse coming from the ship, like a wave of energy, Graham said, his voice trembling. I can't pinpoint where it's coming from, but it's affecting everything. It's like it's communicating with us, but in some form we can't understand. Elara's chest tightened. The ship wasn't just here to observe, it was testing them, probing them. And whatever it wanted, they were dangerously unprepared. Keep monitoring, Elara ordered, her mind already calculating their next moves. The fleet will be here soon. We'll have to buy time until they arrive. Just then, an alarm blared across the bridge. Commander. Graham called urgently. The fleet's response, there's been a delay. They're going to be another 20 minutes out. We're on our own for now. The news struck her like a blow to the chest. They didn't have 20 minutes. The unknown ship was already a serious threat. She could feel the tension in the air thickening, like the calm before a storm. Send another distress signal. Let High Command know we are critical, she said, her mind racing. And get me a direct link to General Rivas. We need orders now. As Graham worked, Elara turned back to the main view screen. The unknown ship hadn't moved. It was just floating there, hovering just outside their reach, but the energy pulses it sent toward them were becoming more frequent. Each pulse felt like a warning, a signal that the ship's intentions weren't friendly. They were watching. What do we do, Commander? An officer asked, his voice trembling slightly. We're sitting ducks here. Elara gritted her teeth. There was no easy answer. The Empire's reputation rested on its strength, its dominance in the galaxy. But they were facing an enemy with technology beyond anything they had ever seen. If the ship was as dangerous as it seemed, the Empire's might would be tested in ways it never had before. She stepped away from the console and turned toward the crew. Her face was steady, but deep down, she was struggling to hold her fear in check. We do what we always do, she said firmly. We hold the line. We wait for reinforcements, and we survive. But even as she spoke those words, a deep dread crept into her mind. What if reinforcements didn't make it in time? What if they were already too late? The seconds stretched out like hours as Commander Elara stood at the front of the bridge, eyes locked on the main view screen. The unknown ship remained in position, perfectly still, but the air around her crackled with a sense of imminent danger. The ship wasn't just sitting there, it was waiting, like a predator sizing up its prey. Commander, Lieutenant Graham's voice was tight. His fingers tapped frantically on his console. I'm still getting those strange pulses. They're growing stronger. It's almost like it's trying to send us a message, but I can't decode it. Elara's heart pounded. A message from a ship that defied all logic and reason. The idea unsettled her. If this is some kind of communication, she said, trying to mask the unease in her voice, then the stakes just went higher. This isn't an enemy invasion anymore. This is something much more complex and dangerous. What do you mean? A message, she asked, trying to mask the unease in her voice. Is it some kind of signal? Graham's face was drawn, sweat glistening on his forehead. It's not like anything we've seen before. The pulses, they don't register as normal communications. It's almost like they're reaching into our systems, interfering with our tech. We've never encountered something like this. Elara's mind raced. If the ship was trying to communicate, it could be trying to warn them, or worse, manipulate them. They couldn't risk assuming it was harmless. Keep trying to break the code, she ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. We need to know what it wants. Before Graham could respond, a low, ominous sound filled the room, a hum followed by a strange vibration underfoot. It felt like the very structure of the station was groaning under pressure. What is that? Elara demanded, her eyes flicking around the room. We're being scanned, Commander, Graham replied, his face pale. I can't stop it. It's like the ship is reaching into our systems, like it's trying to pull something out. I don't know how, but it's getting through our defenses. Ilara's pulse quickened. The unknown vessel wasn't just watching them, it was probing them, testing the limits of their technology, their defenses, their very foundation. This wasn't just a passive observation. This was a calculated, invasive action. Shut down all non-essential systems, she barked, moving quickly to the console. Graham wasted no time. His hands flew over the control panel as alarms blared throughout the station, warning of system overloads. One by one, non-essential power sources were shut off. But the ship outside seemed unaffected. The pulses continued, stronger and more frequent, and the ship's position remained unchanged. It was as if nothing they did had any impact at all. "Commander, I think it's trying to figure out how we work," Graham said, his voice tight with anxiety. I think it wants to understand our systems. It's like it's learning from us." Ilara clenched her fists. They were dealing with an intelligence far beyond their own. The Empire's best minds wouldn't even be able to fathom the level of sophistication the ship had, and they were standing right in its path. "Get me high command now," she snapped, though she knew it was likely too late. The fleet wouldn't reach them in time. And even if they did, would they be prepared to face something like this? Graham worked furiously, but the communication lines were dead. The pulses were interfering with everything. The station was completely cut off from the outside world. "Commander, we can't contact anyone," Graham reported, his voice shaking. "I don't know what to do." Ilara gripped the edge of the console. They were alone, completely alone. Suddenly, the vibration underfoot intensified, and the room was filled with a loud, resonating hum. It felt like the station itself was being pulled toward the unknown vessel. Ilara's heart skipped a beat as she turned toward the view screen, her eyes widening in disbelief. The ship was moving, but not in the way any ship should move. It was not traveling across space as they had expected. Instead, it seemed to distort the very space around it, bending reality itself. A shimmering, almost liquid-like distortion appeared between the station and the vessel, like a rift being torn open in space. "Commander, this is..." Graham's voice faltered as he stared at the screen. "This is impossible. It's warping space. That ship isn't just moving, it's warping reality itself." Ilara's stomach churned as she watched the ship glide closer, the distortion growing larger, more menacing. This was beyond anything they had ever studied, beyond anything they had ever believed possible. The unknown vessel wasn't just breaking the rules of space travel, it was rewriting them.